I think this is a conversation long time coming. I don't think you and I have ever really sat down.
I think we have, but
We've never sat down and reasoned without pressure. Where I gotta go. I think probably the last time we talked like that.
I play that with my mom sometimes. My mom is like that. It's heavy.
Yeah,
It's heavy.
yeah. The last time we talked, it was on Apple Street. Like last time we talked in
Well, it
person.
was on the phone. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was kind of like a little squeeze for
A
time.
little squeeze because
Yeah.
we had a moment, but everybody was around.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then I think you had to go for,
yeah.
for something.
It's interesting that you say that because it's like we live in those fleeting moment spaces.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? That's why you enjoy it while it's there.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's why I want to take advantage of this. So I have Mo Black.
Mhm.
Can I call you Mo Black?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got Mo Black here. He is a high school class, not exactly classmate, but
High school.
high school mate.
Yeah.
High school mate
Yeah.
from different years.
Yeah.
And I have him on
Nah,
because
just a year
yeah,
from prior to your class.
yeah, two separate years.
Not 2 years.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
different years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not necessarily years in
Yeah.
separation.
There's some social distance there.
Yeah, yeah,
In terms of, the people
yeah,
that
yeah,
we ran, but we know each other from CI.
yeah. So Mo Black is
More than that, we know each other from, so the years passed, and then we're in the enough respect circle
Yeah.
outside of high school.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a man with good sense,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to get his perspective. I want you to give your perspective on certain things
Okay.
in life. And it came to mind because you had said the time we was on the phone
Mm-hmm.
with Mike,
Yeah.
and you had some things pressing,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're a reasoner,
Mm-hmm.
a thinker,
Mm-hmm.
you're not reactionary.
No.
You
Sometimes.
you contemplate for
Yeah.
the most part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You observe and collect and give some thought on that. And I think people need to hear some of the things you got to say.
Okay.
But from your perspective,
Mhm.
who is Mo Black?
Well, there was a Black Moses, Isaac Hayes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I didn't. I wouldn't say I intended to bite or copy Isaac Hayes, but I saw his name that he had an album,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, it just looked like regal.
Mm.
I just noticed that,
Mm.
and then I kind of liked it. It had that biblical reference. It was power, and so, we all were looking for those powerful names as kids of hip hop, and so
So inspired.
that was there.
Yeah.
How it came to be commonly used was at a dance contest.
By you? Commonly used by you?
No, amongst the fellas.
Okay. Oh, the
Um,
fella's calling you that.
Yeah.
Okay.
How it came to be, like how it was coined. There's a spot called Danielle's, but not everybody will remember that.
Okay.
But this is like 89. This is like late 80s.
Okay.
Danielle's was a spot on Wheeler Road and Vets Highway.
You are jogging my memory of this.
So me, Len, Rick, Ronnie, We was up in there.
These are all,
Dance contest.
these are all people from CI from back in the Central Islip. We call CI.
Yeah, those are the boys from
No,
Central Islip.
no intent to infringe on Brooklyn's Coney Island, but we call it CI too.
Right. Right. We got love for CI.
Yeah.
Coney Island.
Yeah.
But in at Danielle's, the dance contest, this was the time when Lean on Me was out with Kane. So Kane and Scuba Scrap was doing like their little dance step. So me and Len did that in the dance contest. First it was me dancing solo, and then Len came in. So when they had the names for the persons to get involved, I just said Mo Black. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't even know you was using that name that long.
Yeah. And so when it was, time to choose the winner, it was like Apollo style, like,
Mm-hmm.
So they were screaming out
Whoever
Mo
screamed
Black.
loudest. Okay.
They were screaming out Mo Black.
So this was a dance contest at the club.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So after that, Mo Black became like, that was the name.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I always knew it had its roots with Isaac Hayes.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And Easy Mo B.
I don't remember him.
Easy Mo B is the producer who did like Craig Mack shit. He's been around for years.
Okay.
The Kane shit.
Okay. Yeah, that's circles that I really wasn't in back then,
Yeah. But so in other words, there's permutations of Moses. Like Zelka says Moses.
Yeah, I knew you as Moses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Ricky would say Mo B.
Okay.
Which was, I love that.
That's Apple Street Circle.
Yeah, I love that name, but I know that it came from, or it has been said by Easy Mo B. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's all hip hop consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Which is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But that's where the name,
okay,
that's how it came to be. The thing is, when you say, who is Mo Black? It's really deeper than the name. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I? I'm a man, black man, you know what I'm saying? Out here living. I view my whole being as connected to God, while I'm imperfect, but it's God consciousness that I'm trying to keep myself grounded in. That's not how I came up, obviously. I came up like debauchery, son. You know what I'm saying? But this is like...
What kind of debauchery?
All types of debauchery.
Anything that's...
Well, let's keep it... Let me keep it specific what came to mind why I said that.
Modern day debauchery is different.
True indeed. So, I'm a child of the 90s, and that's when I was an adolescent. And most of what I mean is in relationships with girls, disrespectful, a little waywardness in some street shit, but not heavy. But blind days, you know what I'm saying, is the way Lord Jamal puts it. And that's exactly how I see it for myself. Those is my blind days. So when I speak of God consciousness, it's now.
What makes you reference Lord Jamar? Old Lord Jamar or new Lord Jamar?
Well, when I said that, I meant old Lord Jamar.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what's up with new Lord Jamar. I know there's some controversy.
Yeah.
But I've dibbled and dabbled into what's been happening, but not thoroughly.
Yeah.
There is a need for a perspective like Lord Jamar.
Okay.
For real.
Okay.
For real.
Okay.
It's a perspective.
Okay.
You don't have to agree.
Yeah.
But
so finish, top off Mo Black.
So I use the word debauchery. So I use the word disrespectful to women in my blind days. And that's kind of where I was. As a matter of fact, what happens when you say Mo Black, just like with other persons in hip hop, it's like another dimension. You know what I'm saying? Another, like Sasha Fierce with Beyonce. It's another
Alter ego.
alter ego.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
I got a few.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just have that one.
Okay.
But it's, you know, we're multi-dimensional, and we've always been that.
Yeah.
So it's like right now as we speak, we're dancing back and forth between what was and what is, you know?
Mhm.
And so when you say what, you know, who am I? I'm all of that,
Right.
you know? I'm all of those things. But now it's just we're choosing a more conscious way of being that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to give you specific examples, but I'll give you one.
Okay.
So we was at an old friend's house, mutual brother, Mike, and we had some, you know, Mike's house was big,
Mm-hmm.
you know, some girls on that side. We'll call it a wing.
Yeah.
Girls
it
in
was
that
a wing. It definitely was a wing.
We call it a wing.
Yeah.
Girls in that wing, girls in that wing.
Mhm.
So I was talking to one on some old, you know, I'm gonna get with you type shit. And then I moved to the other wing and was doing the same shit. And then the two found out and it became ugly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But I ain't doing
Mm-hmm.
so that's an example of just disrespectful.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But I think there's no judgment there because I think a lot of people go through that.
Yeah,
Even women. Even women
Yeah.
have their dirt days.
yeah.
Culturally,
Mhm.
who's Mo Black?
Culturally, 6th grade, even before that name, well, here is the theme. Here is the through line. The through line is when the name was coined, I was doing what I was doing before it was coined, which was dancing, hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
We was, me and some fellas, we had the linoleum, we had the windbreakers in the football pad in the hood doing windmills, and not windmills. I couldn't windmill,
Mm-hmm.
but doing head spins. You know what I'm saying? So culturally, Mo
Sure.
Black is hip hop.
I feel like a head spin is harder than a windmill.
Well, I never got the windmills.
I never really did.
I never got the windmills.
I think I might have came close, but I was more like afraid to try the head spin.
Well, that came easy for me.
Mm.
But the body mechanics involved in windmills, I just never got that.
Mm.
Never got that. CI. Heavy, high powered.
Mm-hmm.
Remember high powered?
Nah.
High powered was the group that Wink was in.
Mm. Wink is a little bit older than me.
Yeah.
So I probably missed that. And you have to understand the corner of CI that I was born, that I lived,
Yeah.
separated me from certain groups until we all came together in junior high.
Got you.
You know what I mean?
Got you.
I was in Morrow School, elementary.
Mhm.
So if you're going back to 6th grade,
Right.
I was in Morrow.
Right.
For the people's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
Morrow is a predominantly white elementary school where most everybody else was, if you was on the other side of town,
Yeah.
you had a more of a mixture, if not all black
Yeah. You're right. I didn't think
and
about
Hispanic.
that. I
Yeah.
didn't think about that.
So I didn't know a lot of people until
Yeah.
we went, so some of the circles you're mentioning,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known until we got to,
The overarching point is that hip hop was all throughout New York,
yeah,
all throughout CI, and that's just what we did.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a conscious. It was conscious,
yeah,
but a lot of it was just like that's what was in the air.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Kind of like what's in the air today is social media
True indeed.
for the young kids.
True
The only
indeed.
difference is they didn't create it.
True indeed.
They didn't create it.
True
The
indeed.
kids didn't create it.
True indeed.
You know what I mean? just something that
good
happened
point.
to be there
It's a very good
for
point.
them.
It's a very good
What
point.
we were doing,
We was participating
Yeah.
in tradition.
Your parents, you're Panamanian, right?
Yeah.
Okay, both of them.
My father's Jamaican.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that affect who you are today, or even in CI?
I mean, I don't know if this happens with a lot of people, but I kind of gravitated more towards my father's side in terms culturally.
Yeah.
My father was playing Bob Marley in the house,
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of grew up with that influence, and it was another dimension of you know the making of me culturally.
I would think that would happen by default in most families back then, because fathers back then were more influential on the son. You know what I mean? Than the mother.
Yeah.
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 So that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I played soccer, so that kind of fit in line with my father. It fit in line with him being from Jamaica. It fit in line with Bob Marley.
Did he play with you as a kid?
Yeah.
Before you got to, high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I went to Jamaica
Ah.
when I was 8. And it had a profound effect on me. You know what I'm saying? So if someone asked me if I'm Jamaican, I wouldn't say yes. I say my father's from Jamaica.
Right.
That's how I always answer. If I have on my little Panamanian pendant and someone says, "Oh, that's Panama," I say my mother's Panamanian. You know what I'm saying? I never say I'm from Panama. At the same time, those places have impacted me like deeply. You know what I'm saying? For example, in Jamaica, when I went for the summer, I just went for a summer.
That's a lot of time, though.
It is.
As an 8-year-old?
Yeah.
It
is.
Those things that kids do for a summer are impactful on their life forever.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. And that's a very good point to say out loud.
That's core memory.
You know, it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And that's a very good point to say out loud, because in the work I do now, that's profound. Nonetheless, I was in Jamaica, and I was really doing like Jamaican kids do. I had a box of orange juice, like a carton, trying to juggle that shit, using the wall as a support. And that's how I learned how to juggle a soccer ball. I learned how to juggle a soccer ball from an orange carton, son.
Yo,
that's like so cultural.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
You know what I'm saying? I came back to New York rich. I came back to New York. I did 100 with a soccer ball from a box. I didn't even know I was that good. It just happened. It's crazy. That makes me feel so connected to, like, you know what I'm saying? That is deep.
Yeah.
That is deep. When you see those videos of, I'm not from Jamaica, like say Bob Marley is, but I share that thread of humble beginnings, just in that narrow sense. That shit feels really good. Yeah. In terms of identity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I never knew that about you.
Yeah, man.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And then, on the block, I was killing them. You know what I'm saying? Ricky, childhood friend.
The block is Apple Street.
Apple Street is the block. Ricky, childhood friend, would go against Len, childhood friend. They could get down. But the competition was between them, because I would smoke them, then watch them. You know what I'm saying?
Were they the same age at the time as you?
Nah, I'm the youngest.
Okay.
I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest. Like, when I think about that Mo Black experience at that spot, and all of the times on the block, traveling, going here, getting into beef. I was like the baby of the crew. Going to Southampton, you know, we was going to Southampton University. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Because Sec was going to school there, so he had, you know, all his hookups.
Oh, yeah.
I was always,
Rest in peace.
rest in peace indeed. I was always the baby of the crew. You know, but yeah. So culturally, it was a very profound thing being from having a father from Jamaica.
But
With my mother,
okay. I was going.
I don't want to
No.
have too much imbalance.
Yeah.
There's already imbalance because I just take to that side more. But
We're not perfectly symmetrical people
yeah,
anyway.
we're not. True indeed.
Yeah.
True indeed. But seeing, so if you talk to other people, they've spent a lot more time in these places. Rob, for example, childhood friend, always in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
C,
He might
for
be in
example,
Jamaica now.
Indeed.
I think he is.
C, for example, always in Panama. You know what I'm saying? I only went once as a child.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But again, deep. I'm not gonna give an example of my time there, but just to big up that side of my family. It has, you know, those roots. Seeing that. Now we're adults, and we have when we use terms like cultural diversity today,
Yeah.
and we try and connect with folks from different places. Yo, I understand the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Now we're talking about immigration and migrants. Yo, my mom's comes from poverty, son.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like slums.
Yeah.
Straight slums.
Yeah.
So and that's out her mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Even a little bit of time makes a difference.
What you mean?
That even if somebody spends a little bit of time in these places,
Yeah.
in the real parts of these places,
Yeah.
not in the resorts.
True.
Spend time in the communities.
True.
That's when you can connect,
Yeah.
and you're less likely to judge when you spend real time.
Yeah.
in
Less
these
likely.
places. Yeah,
It's not guaranteed,
it's
but
not guaranteed.
you know,
but it's easier to understand.
yeah, that's a problem with America.
Yeah.
My mom's is from those slums. Real rap. Relative deprivation is the term. She didn't know how bad it was until she went to the city and saw people living a lot better. She thought it was just like common. Talking about bathroom outside, no bathrooms, going to the in the hole, slums like that.
But your parents grew up on. They raised you on Apple Street.
Yeah. They came to the block in '75. I was 3.
That's what's crazy, because you're talking about how, you know, C went to Panama,
Yeah.
Rob in Jamaica, and you're only giving credit to Summer at 8 years old
Yeah.
in Jamaica, but y'all created, like, the block was Jamaican Panamanian. It was like
Yeah.
Jamaica Panama.
Yeah. It had, I mean,
Was it everybody on the block? I don't know if it started in '75, but how did that block become that? Everybody on the
Everybody
block is
came-
Panamanian
everybody-
and Jamaican.
I mean, there's a lot of that.
I mean, just that block. I'm just talking about that block.
Yeah.
Everybody on there. Sec was Panamanian.
Yeah, I wouldn't say everybody.
Well, Lenny,
he came.
his
like,
family's where from?
from the States, from the
Okay,
Bronx.
okay. So he's the only one.
I mean, in the circles that make the block what it was, the majority was from the islands.
Yeah.
But not everybody.
Well, it's only what, 10 homes, just in that segment.
Just on that block,
I want to say 8 out of 10 of them probably.
the majority,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. I'm just saying that everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And-
Because it's not everybody.
Right.
You know,
But that set the culture of that block.
most assuredly. Most assuredly. So I mean, fathers were there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Mothers were there. Everybody was there.
Yeah.
At least in the 70s, you know, 80s, some of the pop split. But in terms of the cultural influence, we had a block party. Like in I must have been like 5. Still got pictures of it. I can still see it.
Yeah.
And so it's like people will say that it's a very rare thing to have a unit so tight for so long on a block that began as strangers. You know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful thing. It's so diffuse. It's hard to like target something, but it's just been a very close knit block.
Mm-hmm.
A very rare experience.
Yeah.
You said that the energy was Jamaican and Panamanian. It was like, but that was the parents at first. The parents were partying. Linoka's parents, my parents, not so much Rob, but Sex parents. They were from that same block. The adults, before the kids got to that level, they were partying. The Greers, which is before, you know, that's way back. But they all would get together. Like so for example, we had house parties at Lenny's house, right? Classic. That house saw parties before our generation. You know what I'm saying? So these are tradition.
Well, what Lenny was doing was what he learned from his parents, as you're saying, from y'all parents.
Exactly. He was carrying on tradition. And it was just, so that block is unique. And I hadn't even thought about that.
Because I've been to one.
Yeah.
I've been to one of Lenny's basement parties, and I came up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's when we had the blue light.
Yeah.
The blue light parties.
Yeah. Yeah.
I met a Jamaican chick that night that I lost touch with. But we hit it off.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic times, yo.
So now knowing your background, you mentioned something that I didn't plan to bring up, but I want to bring it up. I want to ask you your opinion about it. Is hip hop 50 years old?
Is it?
Is it?
I mean, that's what we were celebrating.
But I'm asking you, is hip hop 50 years old? Because you mentioned hip hop.
Yeah.
You mentioned what you were doing. That is what we do. Is just what, you know, like you were breakdancing.
Yeah.
You know, you were head spinning.
Yeah.
How old were you when you were head spinning?
That was like that was 6th grade. It was like 12.
Okay. You were 12 years old.
Yeah. I mean, that was 86. You know, 85. I was in 6th grade in 84. My fault. 84. Yeah.
I would say that, I don't know. That's a far cry from 73, you know, which is the year that the claim is that hip hop is created.
I mean,
that hip hop was born. So I'm just asking you, you know.
I started in it where, well, my brother was DJing. So James was spinning. He had a DJ crew. James is my brother. God bless him.
Okay.
He's deceased now. But so yeah, I would say it's fair to you know, I mean, you got to mark it with some number.
Okay.
You know
Okay.
You have a because that's a trick question in a sense. You have a feeling about that?
It's not a trick question. I just want to know.
Well,
I put it like this: the year that they celebrated 50 years of hip hop.
Yeah.
I was turning 50.
Okay. So they could be off. I mean, to keep it real, there's a band reggae called Midnight. right?
From Virginia. Are they from Virginia? Or they just played in Virginia a
They're
lot?
from the Bahamas, I think.
Okay, they played in Virginia a lot.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
So they have a track, and this is not only unique to them, but the parallel was graffiti writing, bombing and those things, which is foundational to hip hop, is just a new dispensation of what was ancient hieroglyphics. So when you look at it from a broader African tradition, it's kind of like ancient.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It's an ancient practice. It's just this dispensation.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Redispensation.
Huh?
Redispensation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Reinstantiation.
Yeah.
It's all kinds of words you could give to it, but
yeah,
it's always been there. It's always been our practice. The oration. You know what I'm saying? In terms of holding the mic and being a poet. You know, it's ancient.
mm-hmm.
You know? So there are some that view it that way. We don't tend to. But, you know, moving away from CI into the broader, you know, culture we come out of, this is the reason why there was a little tension with say, Nicki Minaj.
Okay.
And not paying homage to Lil Kim. In tradition, you're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
If you're new and you're not in that kind of a way, people frown upon that.
Yeah.
I'm one of those.
In African tradition.
Yeah, I'm one of those. But on the flip side, when they say, if they don't know, it's our fault, you gotta take responsibility for that too. You know what I'm saying? But I'm one of those. Going back to Lord Jamar, Fat Joe.
I knew it was coming.
Fat Joe said, this broke, blah, blah, blah. I heard that snippet. And then I heard Lord Jamar say, what is being broke the new racism? That is, I agree with that. Anyway, there's this new thing happening. Relevance. I'm an old person, well, relatively old. I don't subscribe to this notion of him no longer being relevant. We need to change that. It's matter. Them is matter.
Who?
Lord Jamal, Brand Nubian, cats that's not on the scene, they matter. We use the word, not we, but the younger persons today say, oh, he ain't relevant. Nah, it's not relevant. They matter. So I would erase that term because it's used to dismiss people. That.
Yeah.
You can't dismiss those elders.
Yeah.
You might disagree with them.
Well, I think you hurt your relevance when you start trying to do certain things that's not really your space.
Maybe.
Brand Nubians is relevant forever. And they're relevant because they maintain their space. They're not trying to be in someone else's space.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think you know, when you talk about somebody saying he's not relevant anymore, it's because of he's damaging his own relevance, in my opinion. Where he's not embracing the culture that he was a part of creating or building, right? He's trying to do something else.
Well, I want
to keep relevance.
I want to make it more general beyond Lord Jamal.
Okay.
And just say
I like that better.
And just say that because it's not just Lord Jamal in that space where we hear the usage of this term.
Yeah.
There may be arguments in that space, like what you just said about trying to remain relevant, quote unquote, is something different. I don't subscribe to that. Let me try to hold on and maybe make some money. I never saw him like that. But characterizing it like that, I get it. But beyond him, it's a term that has a certain kind of lineage to it. And I just don't agree. As I gave the Little Kim example. Being trying to keep grounded in, because no one is gonna come from a pristine space. So I don't profess to come from that pristine space. I'm coming from a space that's ideal, and in my ideal, I like the idea of having a tradition to stay grounded in, and with that kind of mindset, there are certain things that kind of Joey Badass comes to mind. Joey Badass is someone very keen on homage. Very keen on it. That's why I love him. You know what I'm saying? But what I was saying was,
before you slide away from that,
yeah,
in order to stick with, like a culture that honors and respects, I think
thank you for going back to that.
both parts have
Right.
to participate in that. So when you as the elder start stepping away from
Right.
that,
Right.
that's when relevance is relative.
I don't care for that term.
Okay, well,
But
let me
perhaps you might say it in some ways
yeah.
that make me like it more.
Let me
It
yeah.
matters.
Right. Everything matters within a certain construct, right?
Yeah.
Glass matters.
Where you taking me?
Glass matters when it needs to hold water,
Mm-hmm.
when it needs to hold wine,
Mm-hmm.
when it needs to hold you up,
Right.
right?
True.
That glass matters.
True.
So Brand Nubians matters
Mm-hmm.
in the evolution of hip hop.
Indeed.
Does Brand Nubians matter when they start trying to talk about biology, physics?
It's a very specific space you're going into right now, and
What-
I can't follow you there because
What
I'm not keen on where what.
but you don't have to be,
Okay.
because if I say physics to you,
Right.
react. Give me a name that just pops into
Nah,
mind.
It's not going to be anybody from
Give me any,
Brand New. I get it.
because why?
Yeah.
Why isn't it going to be from anybody from Brand New?
Dave Chappelle was saying, when hits the fan, I don't want to hear the comments of Ja Rule. You know what I'm saying?
Why?
So that's not your space.
Why don't you want to hear it?
That's not your space.
Not your space.
That's not what
Another
we-
words for not your space is not relevant.
You can say that.
And I think that's, I don't think people know that they're saying that,
Right.
but that's what's forcing people to say that.
If I am someone who is, say I'm Lord Jamar, and I leave from the hip hop discussion, for example, he might have said that, he did say that Eminem is a guest, or whites are guests in hip hop. So here is someone now from Lord Jamar's view who's taking race, and he just wants people to remember. At least that's my view of why that matters. He wants folks to remember that this is a black art form. Okay, so you might agree or disagree, but I kind of understand the angle. But it's hip hop.
You have to understand that angle.
It's hip hop.
Yeah.
So if he now decides to go into an argument where his mastery is a lot more, questionable, is what you were just saying, then you're kind of getting out of your range. You know what I'm saying? And so the relevant topic or term makes sense in that space, in that usage. What I was talking about before, about trying to have this ideal, in an effort to bring it back to what I was saying before, about trying to have an ideal. The ideal is to view hip hop culture, just to have that lens to see it from that broader perspective of this African art form, right? That within it you can connect the practices oratory, graph to ancient things. Moreover, you can connect traditions such as homage to those that came before you as a part of that same kind of cultural appreciation, cultural ethos. And within that ethos, I think matters, and that terminology makes more, it just has more gravitas than saying relevant because of the way the term is being used.
That word bothers you.
Because of the way it's being used.
But I blame him.
No, I'm saying beyond just him.
Right.
Beyond just him.
Right, because I think you're
like Sidney Poitier, changing the genre. He ain't relevant, but he matters so much, right? To Denzel, who quote unquote is relevant. There is no Denzel without Sidney Poitier.
Yeah.
Denzel and in that genre, they understand that. Yeah. In hip hop, it's different. It's different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a generational thing.
But whose fault is that?
It's our fault.
All right. And you mentioned that before.
It's our fault.
It's our fault.
It's our fault. It's the elders' fault.
We let the culture go.
Indeed. No argument there.
Yeah.
No argument
and that goes beyond hip hop.
It does.
We let.
But hip hop is a beautiful parallel to understand on black folks specifically, right? The way in which we get out of sync with hip hop history. Just say Nicki Minaj to Little Kim. Not that Nicki Minaj is ignorant, blah, 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 but just to give an example. Her to Little Kim, right? Denzel to Sidney Poitier. It's still entertainment. But then the actual books, right? Martin Luther King to Marcus Garvey. We kind of have been lost in the historical space, and it seems like it's a lot of historical spaces. In other words,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
Well, I argued this with my friends Spruce and Culture in the episode. The problem that we have is two problems, but one of the main ones is we don't want to document. We don't want to write stuff down. We don't want to be a part of the existing documenting systems. And you want to use something that's already existing and established worldwide so that everybody knows. And it's an open platform per se that everybody reads. It's a central place. You know what I mean? So therefore, anybody can reference this to say, this is when this happened, and this is exactly what happened. But we want to leave stuff to ambiguity so that if we want to argue it, we can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can disagree with it, and we don't have to stand on it.
There has to be folks out there. I mean, I may be myself out of touch, but there is some of that.
I'm not saying there is none.
Right.
But there's not.
It's not systematic.
It's not by and large. It's not systematic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in addition to what the other problem is, I was going to say is we don't have a governing body.
Right.
We don't have governing bodies of black people. It doesn't mean we're creating a government.
Right.
But we don't have bodies that represent different aspects of us that we all accept as that governing body. So
that's part of the difficulty.
Yeah.
Because
we're not united.
Yeah, we gotta agree.
We have to agree.
Yeah.
And people try to use this, I'm not a monolith. You don't have to be a monolith to be, to have a governing body that speaks for us.
Yeah.
When we need one message, sometimes you need one message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you need a body that is agreed to be the central body.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, there is no governing body, but
So we can't blame nobody. And that goes back to the whole 50-year thing.
I'm
Like,
saying though, I mean, we can't speak as if we're in a vacuum and they haven't been. It is on us ultimately, black folks at en masse. But we can't sit down like there hasn't been a fucking coordinated effort to undermine our efforts, and that's real.
yeah,
And there's a lot of social media. You know, is a to me is a distract the cell phones. It's a distracting force, and it pushes people into, especially the channels. I mean, it can be used for purposes grounded in unification, but largely it's an individual pursuit
right.
for the most part.
Yeah.
So it appears to be, and
But that's the people's fault. That's not the platform's fault.
it's not. I'm not saying it's the platform.
You either let the phones use you or you use the phones.
Yeah, I mean that overstanding, it's there. I don't know that it's always accessible. Where it's the paper chase. Even in my own personal life, which is probably happening to many people, you end up closing off. That's what we was talking about before. It's like I know that they're there, and I know that I have people who are in this new town that I live in, that the circumstances of my life might keep me from reconnecting. But there's power in the reconnection.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the circumstances, I gotta go to work. I gotta, you know what I'm saying? We're all, it feels to me like there's just more and more reason to not reach out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I like that you brought that up, because I often say, because of the way the new culture is, the way the world is, when I say new, like 10 years, the last 10 years, I think we're overconnected. I don't think, when you're talking about, basically before we started recording, you're talking about these people that live near you.
Yeah.
People that you kind of, they was your people. They are your people still.
Yeah. Yeah.
People you grew up with.
Yeah.
And they're not no more than 15, 20 minutes away from you.
Yeah.
You don't spend a lot of time with them.
Nah.
But sometimes I think people feel like with social media, I think some of us are overconnected, and it makes people, you connected to people you really don't want to be connected to anymore, even though you still got love for them.
Yeah.
And you still want to be connected to them.
I mean, Rich, it's like the usage of the term connection.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the connotation that I mean.
I get you.
You know what I'm saying?
I get you.
We're replacing the original connection with the virtual one.
Yeah.
So there was an Arab Spring. Remember the Arab Spring? That was like folks in Egypt were using Facebook to rally and get the word out about they was in the streets. And they was using Facebook to be in the streets on some, I want to say the leader of the country was on some, I guess they wanted a change of regime or change of president. And they used Facebook to rally around. That's one way to use the digital universe for the cause of the people.
Yeah.
I guess we do that in pockets, but we just haven't gotten to, and who am I waiting for?
We have the social media there to connect.
Right.
We are electronically connected.
It's there.
Right? That means we can see pictures of you. We can see videos of you. We can message you.
Yeah.
We have a channel to reach you. We have a channel to see each other.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we don't always want that available, because before social media, when people graduated and went their separate ways, they were essentially separate
Yeah.
until somehow
Yeah.
whoever coordinated a reunion or something,
Yeah.
people got back together.
Yeah.
Now, I think people are kind of tired of being connected. And I say that to say there's nothing wrong with not always hanging out just because you live close to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with having some space between people who you're supposed to be,
Yeah.
close with.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with not having them over for Christmas or seeing them all the time. And I say that because, like me and Mike,
Mm-hmm.
we've been friends since 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go to his house unless it's absolutely necessary. He might need something, or I might need something. Sometimes I text him and like, yo, you got a jack? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Can you bring it by? Stuff like that.
Right.
But we've been friends forever. We don't need to. There's nothing wrong with that. We didn't choose who we went to high school with. We couldn't choose that. We couldn't.
Yeah.
We didn't
Yeah.
choose. You know what I mean? Our parents chose that. As adults, that don't mean we need to be around each other all the time.
I mean, you're right. You're right. And that's the way it's going. And that's what I'm living in every day.
And no love is lost.
Nah, it's no love loss. But
It's intended for people to not always get together. Is that what you're saying?
it's in the I mean, I feel like, is it a benign kind of thing that happens when communities are separated? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, it is intended for us to go our ways and become men, etc. So I get that. And the extent to which we get together is on us. Like, for example, I love how JT and Harewood, old guys from CI, they still get together. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to do.
But how often?
I don't know how often.
Yeah.
But it's meaningful.
They all
At
have
least-
to
at
live.
least once a year.
Yeah. Well, that's not bad.
At least once a year.
That's good. That is healthy to me.
My lord. Apple Street has offspring. I mentioned my parents. They were on the block partying. We grew up on the block partying. It's severed now. It's not what it was. Maybe there's a person or two left, right? But the consciousness of the group is still there. The kids of my kids, another person who grew up on the block, her kids are still there. We have to keep it going. That is a microcosm of the larger issue that happens when folks in hip hop, younger, just came out, person has been in the game for a long time, there's no connection. And they are the macro, the larger view that's happening to us in the smaller view. So I can't get mad at it too much, because in my own circle, I recognize that, yeah, that's what's happening. We're growing apart.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that that's not an accident. But it's on us. But it's not an accident. But it's on us. But it's not an accident.
When you say it's not an accident,
It's not.
is what?
I'm thinking like, I
It's.
feel like there's a.
What is the it's?
I'm trying to find a way to articulate it that I don't sound like Brother Man from some spoof.
Nah, just
You know what I'm saying?
articulate it.
But it's like,
You mean the separation is not an accident?
I mean the it's like a rupture in it's like a rupture in our own connectivity. And it's just so it's easy to look at the larger thing, which is hip hop is an example. And the reason why it's easier to look at hip hop, which is more of a macro view, is because the forces that would undermine certain elements of hip hop, forces that are outside the community, it's easier to see those forces in that space than it is in, say, my life, your life, my family, your family, my clique, your clique. So using hip hop as an example, we know that at an earlier time, record executives hold a certain power. You know what? Let's not go with that. Let's go with this. And it kind of takes you away from consciousness. That became a thing that was frowned upon.
Yeah.
We'll point to Jay-Z, for example. At one time, he might have been like, you on that old knowledge shit? In a condescending way. And then, years later, he's more about knowledge. Talking about, the domino as you get higher, you know. In one song, he was referencing that. That the higher you go, the less of us there are. So, my point was that our cohesiveness, our cultural consciousness has been under attack. That's a strong word, but that's the word I chose. It's appropriate. It's been undermined forever. But we still find ways to keep it going. We still find, but it's like, it's in silos. You know what I'm saying? And it manifests in terms of Chris Rock getting slapped by Will Smith. Chris Rock said, "My mother taught me that you don't fight in front of white people." That was his comeback in his stand-up. It's like, yeah, that's a part of the ethos. Don't you know that we are the minorities here? So it's like understood that is fading.
Because we don't have a governing body.
You know what I'm saying? But this is just manifestations of how we want to support the statement, the thesis that this governing body of consciousness is changing and has been undermined forever. And it's there, and we love when it's there. That's why I love Joey Badass in a very narrow example, because he recognizes that. And it's like his music continues in that kind of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
When he says in his new joint, "I'm Back," that he's a new apparent heir of New York, I'm like, I wonder if other New York rappers is taking issue with that. You know what I'm saying? And that I think it was they say that it's he's throwing arrows at homeboy from Cali, Lamar. He could be. It seems so. They say that it's, on these podcasts, that it's hate or cloud chasing. I raise issue with that. In that song, he got into a little Jay-Z cadence at the end of that song from New York with Homegirl from Harlem, with Alicia Keys. So I'm like, I love that he tapped into that Jay-Z spirit in making his statement. But I wonder if other New York rappers is like, talking about you ain't know, you know what I'm saying? But it's tradition. So now, in a way, it's like going against somebody from the other side. And why would you want to re-enter into that space when we saw what happened with Biggie and what have you? I get that. But within the sport of hip hop, and this is just how complex we are, one might say that whole enterprise of him saying whatever he's saying at somebody from the West Coast undermines my argument about this fading of consciousness. You can't have both. That's not just how complex it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But within the sport, I love that.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? All these things exist at once. He's paying homage, but then you can't undermine Cali. When we talk about hip hop, people love West Coast. People love NWA.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's no slight.
And on top of that, we're too interconnected now.
Yeah,
When we came up,
yeah,
we didn't have easy access to Cali,
yeah,
so it was easy to separate West Coast from East Coast.
yeah.
But there's really only like one culture now, because once it hits social media, everybody's following. Everybody right now talks the same almost.
I noticed that.
They follow the same. There's the same pattern of
I
the way
noticed
all
that.
the young kids talk,
That's
because
the point.
they heard one. If Nicki Minaj is old right now, but whoever the newest relevant person, if they flow a certain way in their just regular conversation, all the other kids want to sound like it.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah,
You see chicks doing this with their nails when they talk.
yeah,
Gotta
yeah.
click them.
White.
They all gonna do it
Everybody
now.
does that.
Yeah.
yeah,
There's no regional
yeah.
culture
That's a very good
anymore.
point, man. It's not that there's no regional. It's still there.
Some, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
still there, but largely it is one culture.
yeah.
Tennessee, white person, growing up, they would never sound like me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like more and more I'm seeing all these states.
Yeah.
Because my job allows me to see folks from a variety of places in America.
Mm-hmm.
And we all sound the same.
Yeah, because
All up on the slang.
it's whatever the algorithm that you've gotten coming to you, that's what you're gonna
yeah. Yeah.
that's what you're gonna
Yeah.
draw to,
Yeah.
and it's gonna keep feeding you unless you consciously go in there and say,
I mean,
don't suggest this to me anymore.
somebody has to hold the line.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Umar. My daughter mentioned Dr. Umar.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I mentioned it. He's
Right.
on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I think he's on TikTok because Donnell Rollins had a comedy special. Maybe he would have got there any other way.
Yeah.
But I feel like a famous comedian gave him some run in his bit. But my point by mentioning
I saw that.
my point by mentioning his name is to say that someone has to hold the line of a black radical view to remind us that that's where we come from. The intention is for there to be no distinction between us and, say, the values, say Kamala and her presidency run was all about, and Obama, all about, we're all having more alike than difference. That's true in a sense, but it's not to take away the distinction that does exist,
Yeah.
that exists in the streets.
Yeah. They have a reason. They have to do that.
I get it.
And if you don't do that, then you won't get voted for.
I get it.
Yeah.
And it strikes a chord of truth.
Yeah.
It has the ring of truth to it. I'm just saying that you still got to have that Dr. Umar perspective. As few and far between as it seems in the mainstream.
Yeah.
The mainstream would have you think that there's no distinction, but there's people. I'm not from the streets. I wouldn't say you're from the streets. We're not from the street. We're not street.
But we've been in the streets.
But we understand that people in the streets are, there's suffering going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the roots of that, so my mother, as I said before, she's long gone from that time. She's long gone from that, But a lot of folks ain't. And it's like, you can't forget that. What are we doing about it? That's a different argument. But it's like, that's consciousness. You can't get away from that. Mm. I'm saying that this country would have you get away from that totally. And there's ways in which that manifests. And I don't care who the president is, Barack, Trump. that's going to be true. I don't care how well we're doing. We're partying, we drive nice cars. That shit is still true. And the intent is to make us forget. And, you know, and so that's one thing. But it's married to the circumstances that keep us in our own silos. You know what I'm saying? It's married to that. But the micro stuff, your life, my life, I know that they're right there in my neighborhood and close. Folks have moved south. Other New Yorkers that I know are there. So in my personal life, I'm not connecting. Okay. I'm saying that that's a dot in a constellation of other things that kind of mean the same separation. You know what I'm saying? Separation from the people, my folks that I grew up with. Separation from the larger people, my people. That's why I called you that night. Like, the political climate makes me, and I'm living in Florida. It's like, it's a different skip. It's a different beat in terms of, at least it seems different in terms of black folks. I was saying on the phone when I was talking to you and Mike, yo, I could give a little head nod, and at least I know the fucking head nod is still meaningful. Here, yo, I feel like, yo, I'm scared sometimes. Like, yo, but you don't see me?
That's what happens here?
My Lord. We know historically we've been invisible to white folks. But we see each other. You know what I'm saying? There's a researcher named black woman. She's a social worker, but she has a doctorate in social work. I don't remember her name right now. Leary, DeGrue, Joy LeGrue. So, very small point to make. In one of her lectures, she told on respect. You know how that's a big deal with black folks. Step on my shoe, it's problems. She said that respect means look again. And so when I say invisible, I mean you are not supposed to not see me.
Yeah.
That's what we grow up with.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing worse than a black stuck-up woman. You are not supposed to be stuck up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't come from that. I'm offended by that.
Yeah.
Because we are the minority here. Big picture. So I see you. Now, with women, I get it. You're used to me just wanting to you. So I get it. You kind of got a little thing and you don't know my intentions. But with the brothers? You don't see me, son? Nah, man. That's how it feels out here sometimes.
Yeah.
And I get a little way because, yo, I feel like, yo, we are not supposed to lose that. But if we do, what am I gonna say? That was the fucking intention all along.
What are your thoughts on the way relationships are today, particularly, I don't know if you heard about this. I'm assuming you did, but how do you feel about the gender wars? Have you heard about the gender wars?
No.
Just the basic relationship between men and women today. Basically, essentially black men and women. There's if you see the chatter on social media, there's all of this dissension between the black man and woman. Like this effort to be, there's an effort between both sides to undermine each other. And, you know, I'm wondering, is there a way to allay this? To get for the black man and black woman to have a truce. For instance, you're saying that, but when you see a woman, she ignores you. Not you particularly, but like, you know,
I mean, the thing with women is you kind of get it because
they've been scorned.
we know not that part.
Okay.
Just a general. Just a general. Like there's gender. There's unwritten rules. You know.
But they've changed.
Men can make some assumptions. Like you can't even say hi to a man. If you at least some men, some heterosexual men.
You mean
you can't be
mean
a woman.
A man can't say hi to a man, you saying?
No.
Okay.
I'm saying like in the heterosexual space.
All right.
Which is the space we live in.
Yeah.
Pretty woman can't look at us too long because she knows he gonna think I like her. I'm saying the gender norms are such that she's right.
Well, yeah,
So the invisible part with men and women is different. You know what I'm saying? Because she knows that too much eye contact is he's gonna take it to mean something.
it's supposed to.
Okay, but
Right?
I'm saying
Because for for a man who's not just a walk up and aggressive type,
yeah,
a lot of people look for a signal before they know if it's right to.
right.
And that goes across cultures.
It does.
Right?
It does.
Look.
I'm just speaking to the fact that invisible, as I was using it, is different across genders.
Mm.
Because her intention to not see me might be because she doesn't want to give me any play. Differently than not seeing me as a man or my humanity. So I'll say, "What's up, sis?"
But there's a way that she can still acknowledge that you're there
Yeah.
without saying,
Yeah.
I'm interested in
Yeah.
She can
I
keep
don't
it.
usually encounter those women.
Hmm.
But they're there.
Yeah, because
That can just be on some old, general.
how you doing?
Yeah. Context matters.
Some straight nod. They gotta put it real simple. Don't put any swagger in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Don't put any don't put any sexiness in it.
Right. No allure.
But
we
no
see
allure. But some women have it naturally
True.
by default, so they can't help it.
We see, and they might just say nothing.
Yeah.
We see allure when there's no allure. That's what men do.
Mm,
And I'm feeling like she knows that. So that's why she might keep quiet.
yeah.
But all that to say, I might say, "What's up, sis?" And by me using the word sis, I'm trying to disarm that whole tension.
Yeah.
But that could be a ploy too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I'll say that. "What's up, queen?"
Mm-hmm.
And just try to keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I might, So I do things.
I do things too. I say, "Hey, cutie."
Right. So we do things to let it know what the intention is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I do things to let it be known that I'm not really trying to fuck with you like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So, but you're not a privy to this thing going on, and it could be just my imagination.
I think what you mentioned going on has been going on.
It probably has.
Black men, black women been at each other's throats. But it's like back in the 90s, I learned.
But I think it's a group war now.
Yeah, I think it's always been that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Because of the advent of social media. Now you have these
I don't know about that.
You just got. And so I think like, how do I describe it? You have I think dating now is more difficult because it's trending. It's trending in certain algorithms.
What's trending?
This dissension. Black man dissension against black women.
Okay, so can you give an example? Can you unpack what you mean by dissension?
I'm gonna try to do that.
I'll give you example dissension.
Well, I know dissension, but I'm trying to give an example of what I see happening today.
I can give you an example. I don't feel like I am like, so you might have a relationship break apart. Why? Because the man didn't feel like she was pleasing him. The woman might feel like he's not working hard enough. And so we go at each other's throats because of, stuff like that.
But is that modern, or is that like kind of a
It's been going on.
that's a cross culture timeless thing?
So you
That's
say it's
everywhere.
specific to black folks?
I do, yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do think it's specific,
Okay.
and I think,
But the reasons would be different than basic stuff?
yeah, it's
Okay,
it's
so
almost petty to my
so they're not-
to a point.
Okay.
I think. Let's just take. I want to take the balloon pop thing.
What's that?
Have you seen the balloon pop videos where people try to find love? By they get a group of men or a group of women, line up, right? And there's one person that's looking to find love, and the person walks on, and all the people who are there as potential mates have balloons. They have red balloons, and if they're not interested, they pop their balloon. And then the host goes and asks each one why
Right?
you popped your balloon, and then and then they'll ask the visiting person, is this the type of person that you're interested, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm seeing on here, and I think this is not just, but this is an example of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
People are disqualifying people for the pettiest things,
Gotcha.
for things that are not even permanent.
And you see that happening with us more?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Things like, oh, I don't like the way he wore his clothes. That's what he wore today.
And what's the demographic? Young people?
I think it's happening in all ages, but it's probably more young people, but I think it's happening at all ages. When you say young, how old do you mean? 20s?
30s?
30s?
Yeah. I haven't seen it, though.
I've seen a few in the 40s, and I think that pettiness is still there.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are looking at stuff that is not permanent,
Yeah.
and you're disqualifying a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like the way you said what you said.
It's a little shallow.
You could change that.
Yeah.
If the person has good qualities, you could change that. And I just think it's an artifact of the gender war. And when I see, even if you say you talk about dating, well, that is dating, but online dating.
But let's look at the whole, before you say that though, I'm not a fan of trivializing relationships the way they do it and put them on TV. Anyway.
Well, yeah, I agree.
So there's the whole show.
But that highlights what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think the same is happening on online dating.
Mm-hmm.
Online dating is highlighting what's going on, and what you see in a lot of these profiles. And I think it's just in the minds of people as you go, what's really in the minds of people, because that's why people kind of go online, because they want to put what's on their mind.
Right.
And I think what's happening is people are looking for more reasons. They're looking to disqualify rather than to qualify.
Wow, that's interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you're looking for disqualifications, you're never going to find anybody. Because you can always find disqualifications.
Mm-hmm.
People should be looking for, how can I qualify this person?
Yeah.
How can I find things that I can work with and make him qualify to be my, not even wife or boyfriend, to be somebody I can date.
Yeah.
For a time. And then if it goes long, how can he qualify to be my husband?
Yeah.
Or my wife?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the general culture, from what I'm seeing, is, how do we disqualify? Oh, you're not tall enough.
So
You're not. They're looking for disqualifications.
So part of what you're saying is it's a problem-centered approach. That's kind of like the way that the person is being directed. or that's just kind of what the person is doing
That's how people are.
organically.
That's how people are doing.
Mm.
That's how people are generally acting.
Mm. Well,
Oh, you don't make enough money. Oh, I don't like how you wear your jeans.
yeah,
These are things that evolve. People change how they dress.
yeah,
People change their hair.
yeah.
People can lose weight. I'm not, I can understand some of the weight thing because that's a little bit permanent, not permanent, but it's a lot harder to change that.
Hmm.
But something like clothes is,
I mean, I feel like there's a if you can monetize shallowness, like where is the Shaolin monk? Where's the depth? So let me ask you this. So the space in which you come across this.
see, but I'm not just talking about the balloon pop thing as my as my issue. My issue is there's a clash between the genders.
Okay, where is that spilling out to? Online, in the
You can see its presence online,
uh-huh.
and you can see where it came up, even in the election.
Mm.
You can see where it came up in the election. A lot of and this part is where it is not just in Black culture,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of people, and I never really want to get political, but it's part of this. A lot of people feel like that party, that liberal party,
Mhm.
is attacking masculinity,
Mm.
is emasculating men.
It's interesting.
And I don't know if that party is listening, but I think if they were listening,
Mhm.
they would understand why a lot of men were going the other way,
Mm.
because they feel that
Mhm.
the liberal party
Mhm.
is attacking their masculinity.
That's deep. I just
There's a lot of
don't know.
There was a video that I saw. It was shared by Tracy Ellis Ross
Mm-hmm.
leading up to the election.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it was a week maybe before.
Mm-hmm.
It's a video of Michelle Obama
Mm-hmm.
At one of the last rallies. I think it was probably the one that Beyonce was at.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the Texas one.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I am a fan. I will say I am a fan of the Obamas.
Mm-hmm.
But the clip, I can't remember the exact words, but there was a posturing like this to Black men.
Mm-hmm. I believe that. I think I know what you're talking about.
And it was something like,
That energy.
if you're such and such, then you need to check boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And it's like, in my mind, I was like, that's not how, at the 11th hour, you get people to come to your side. Yeah.
You know
I
what
don't
I'm
know that the finger pointing, I'm not saying that the finger pointing actually happened.
Yeah.
But the tone was
yes.
of a finger pointing nature.
Yes. Yes.
And you just don't get people. What you did was make people say, I'm definitely, if you expect a man to be masculine,
Mm-hmm.
that's been the tradition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's engraved in most of us.
Mm-hmm.
If you start doing, that's not going to make a man say, okay, I'm going to do what you say, because a wagging finger is a down talking. That's going to make a man who wants to keep his masculinity.
Yeah.
Of all things, he's going to say, you know what? I'm going over here.
It's very tricky. I get it. I do get it, what you're saying.
And so this is a part of that gender war. I think.
Got you. So, but that example is also old. I mean, that's been happening.
It is.
But in the context of, well, speaking of context, I don't have the full context of what Tracy said and I don't have the full context of what Michelle Obama was trying to say, but I do remember the spirit in which she was trying to, you know, make the point that this could be your woman, and trying to help me see. So I remember her having that.
Tell me how you and the wife made it this long, and how long is this long?
I want to say it's been a long time now, since like
Be careful, because at some point she's going to hear this in
95.
front of you.
94, 95. It's been 30 years. We've been married for 28.
You're kidding, man. You're not going to get in? Come on.